You've probably heard it before. Electronic warfare is so advanced now that air defense systems are basically obsolete. Missiles get jammed mid-flight. Radar becomes useless. The entire concept of defending airspace is finished. But here's the thing. Most of what you've heard is actually myth. And understanding why these myths exist and why they're wrong reveals something crucial about how modern defense actually works. So if you want to cut through the noise and understand what's really happening in electronic warfare, stick around. And if you find this breakdown valuable, consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into technology that matters. Let's start with the biggest myth, that electronic warfare is some kind of magic bullet that instantly disables everything. This idea comes from Hollywood and from misunderstandings about how radar and jamming actually work. When you watch a movie, you see a hacker press a button, and suddenly every screen goes black and all the jets fall out of the sky. That's entertainment, not reality. Real electronic warfare is a constant, ongoing competition. It's not a switch you flip. It's an arms race. Radar systems aren't simple targets waiting to be turned off. Modern air defense radars use something called frequency agility. That means they don't stay on one radio frequency. They jump around constantly, sometimes hundreds of times per second. So when a jammer tries to block one frequency, the radar has already moved to another. It's like trying to hit a moving target in complete darkness. And the target is moving faster than your eyes can follow. Then there's the myth that all modern missiles can be spoofed or confused by electronic means. People imagine that a fighter pilot can deploy some kind of electronic countermeasure, and all the incoming missiles just become harmless. That sounds dramatic, but it misses something fundamental. Missiles and their guidance systems have evolved too. Many modern air defense missiles use inertial guidance systems combined with radar updates. That means they have their own internal navigation that doesn't rely solely on external signals. Even if you jam the radar, the missile still knows roughly where it's going. Some missiles also use terminal guidance, where they lock onto their target in the final seconds of flight using their own sensors. You can't jam a missile that's looking at you directly with its own eyes, so to speak. And many systems now use what's called track-on jam, where the radar actually uses the jammer's own emissions to guide the missile toward it. So the more you jam, the more you reveal your position and the more accurate the system becomes. Here's another widespread misconception, that stealth technology has made electronic warfare irrelevant. The logic sounds reasonable. If enemy radar can't see you in the first place, then jamming doesn't matter, right? But that's backwards. Stealth and electronic warfare aren't replacements for each other. They're complementary. A stealth aircraft uses electronic warfare as a backup layer. Modern fighters carry electronic countermeasure pods that work alongside their physical stealth design. It's defense in depth. And stealth itself has limits that people don't talk about. Stealth works best against certain radar frequencies, particularly high-frequency radar. But air defense systems now deploy multiple radars operating at different frequencies, including lower frequencies that stealth designs are less effective against. A single stealth aircraft might evade one radar while still being visible to another. And when multiple radars share information in a network system, the picture becomes much clearer. You lose the advantage of invisibility when everyone can compare notes. The myth of passive detection is particularly insidious. You've probably read that modern sensors can detect aircraft without sending out any radar signals at all, just by listening to their emissions. And yes, that's technically possible. But there's a huge gap between detecting something and tracking it precisely enough to shoot it down. Passive detection can tell you something is out there, roughly where and maybe what type of aircraft it is. But targeting a missile requires much more precise information: exact coordinates, altitude, speed, and vector. That information has to come from somewhere, and radar is still the best way to get it at range. Here's something crucial that gets lost in the myth-making. Air defense systems don't rely on a single point of failure. They never have. A modern integrated air defense system is a network of sensors, command centers, and firing units all working together. Radar stations feed information to command centers that share it with other units. Even if one radar gets jammed, others feed data into the system. It's redundancy on top of redundancy. You'd have to jam dozens of systems simultaneously across a wide area to create a genuine blind spot. There's also the myth that electronic warfare operates in a vacuum. In reality, there's a human element that's often overlooked. Operators see signs that something is wrong. Maybe the radar behavior is strange. Maybe there's a sudden gap in coverage. Maybe emissions are detected that shouldn't be there. Trained personnel can recognize these patterns and respond, switching frequencies, moving units, or deploying additional sensors. Electronic warfare isn't just machines fighting machines. It's people making decisions under pressure, and modern air defense personnel are trained extensively in countermeasures to electronic attacks. The idea that one new technology makes everything else obsolete is a recurring human mistake. We saw it with stealth aircraft being declared invulnerable. We saw it with air defense missiles being declared unstoppable. Reality is always more complex. Every new weapon generates new countermeasures. Every new countermeasure generates new countermeasures. It's an endless cycle. The notion that electronic warfare has somehow broken this cycle and permanently disabled air defense is just the latest version of an old myth. Consider what you've learned so far about how these systems actually work. Modern air defense uses frequency agility, inertial guidance, networked sensors, and human operators all working together. That's a much harder target to defeat than the simple, vulnerable systems that myths describe. Which is why I like this video if you're finding this approach to technical reality more convincing than the hype. There's also a practical reason why the myth persists. It makes for a better story. A narrative where electronic warfare is this unstoppable force that renders all defense obsolete is dramatic. It's exciting. It plays into our anxiety about technology running away from us. But the true story of electronic warfare is less dramatic and more interesting. It's a continuous competition where advantage shifts back and forth, where every breakthrough is eventually countered, where the side with better engineering, training, and strategy tends to prevail. Now, does this mean air defense is impervious to electronic attack? Absolutely not. Electronic warfare works. Jamming can degrade radar performance. Countermeasures can defeat missiles. Stealth can evade sensors. But it works within limits. And those limits are much tighter than the myths suggest. A well-designed, redundant, networked air defense system is extraordinarily difficult to defeat using electronic means alone. You'd need overwhelming numbers, perfect coordination, and the opponent to make serious mistakes. One more myth worth addressing: that because electronic warfare is so advanced, air defense is becoming irrelevant. But look at the real world. Every major military is investing heavily in air defense modernization. Russia has upgraded its systems. China has developed new platforms. The United States continues to develop new capabilities. If air defense was actually obsolete, this massive spending wouldn't be happening. The fact that militaries worldwide are still treating air defense as a critical capability suggests the opposite of what the myths claim. The persistence of these myths also reflects a broader truth about how we process complex technical information. Most people don't have direct experience with radar or missiles or electronic warfare. We rely on secondhand sources, popular media, and simplified explanations. And those sources often prioritize drama over accuracy. A headline saying electronic warfare is revolutionary and game-changing gets more attention than one saying it's an important but limited capability operating within established constraints. So what's the real lesson here? Electronic warfare is real, it's important, and it does matter. But it's not magic. Air defense systems remain viable and valuable precisely because they've evolved to counter electronic threats. The competition between offense and defense continues. And despite what you might have heard, the defensive side isn't losing. It's adapting, innovating, and maintaining its relevance through better engineering and smarter integration. If you've made it this far, you understand something most people don't: that the most impressive technology is rarely the simple story we get in headlines. It's the complex, nuanced reality beneath the surface. That's why I'd appreciate if you liked this video and subscribe to the channel for more analysis that goes deeper than the myths. And here's my question for you. What electronic warfare myth have you encountered that made you skeptical? Drop that in the comments. I read them, and your perspective matters. Thanks for watching,